Hey guys, and welcome back to the Fantasy Table brought to you by the Blue Stable. I am once again your host, Luke Verkamp, and Theo. We got one more week till championship week. We are almost there, but man, this week is going to be rough for a lot of players. So how you doing,
It's
Theo? First of all, let's just get
oh,
before we
all right,
get
I'm
into it.
great. Happy holidays. I know Hanukkah started a couple days ago. Christmas is on the horizon as well, so it's a great
This
time of
weekend,
year. Championship season is upon us. So I'm very excited, but in terms of my fantasy team, it has taken a hit this week for sure. You just see so many players pop up on the injury report. Weather's getting colder. Talk about that later. But that weather getting colder, that makes things hurt a little bit more. And um it's gonna be a very interesting shakeup. Usually at during this part of the time, like in fantasy, it's really about star power and like how top heavy are you gonna like what your top heavy lineups are like your top cannons, your heavy cannons, are they going to be out there to produce? This year's different. Usually it's like that, but this year we're seeing the depth really trickle in because usually the depth is what matters at the end of the regular season. It's kind of stretching into the playoffs here. It's shaky. Even with teams with good depth, I don't like to brag, but I thought my team had great depth, and I'm still questioning. I'm up in the air for things. So hopefully we can help break this down for you.
Yeah, speaking of the cold weather, like just off the bat, hopefully, I know a lot of people that are watching this are probably from like the Indiana area. Just please stay safe over these next few days. I know the projections are going from mid 40s and rain to negative degrees and snow within 12 hours. So just stay safe, stay inside if you can. I know I'm going to try to because ice is not fun. Like snow's one thing, but ice is a whole nother. But yeah, so I know you could saw by the thumbnail, but Jalen Hurts is the big topic of the day. We'll get into that here in a bit. We'll talk about backup quarterbacks. We'll be talking about the weather. But first, we're just going to go through some of the news and notes from this past week. Starting off with Tyler Lockett. He injured his finger and will miss some time. I've been seeing some reports on missing like 1 week and could potentially come back week 17. Um, if that happens or not, I don't know because he had surgery on his finger. So 1 week missing seems a bit short to me, but I
Like
don't really know. I'm not a doctor.
I saw reports of Lockett, like Pete Carroll apparently said to reporters that he could possibly return like this week. Like he said
That
that
would be
he's like
crazy.
there's a slim possibility where he could actually play this weekend. Of course, that possibility is not high, so I wouldn't count on it as if he is going to play, but that just goes to show how positive the surgery and like just the injury is and how they're going about it. So,
Yeah,
hopefully
I'm
he's back
seeing.
by chance.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm seeing here that Pete Carroll said that the surgery went perfect and he could see action as soon as week 17. So
Oh, okay.
seems like they're
So,
already counting him out here.
okay, that's good then for his health sitting out. Don't really want to rush him back, but I thought surgery went perfectly though. Great news. Hopefully some managers have him back for their championship game.
Yeah, he would be very much needed if they survive this week. Jerry Jones, this is a weird one, but he said that Odell Beckham is going to be joining their team. But it seems weird because they signed Ty, and he's been saying that Odell's also going to be joining the team. This isn't really fantasy relevant for this year because obviously, even if he does sign like today, who knows if he's going to play this week or next week, and he's still got to learn the playbook and everything. But yeah, maybe he gets a multi-year deal, and that's I guess the main reason why I'm bringing this up. But just seems odd to me.
I want to see the percentages of how many teams lost in the first round of the playoffs that had OBJ on their bench.
Oh my goodness. I hope I hope that I mean, surely Odell's roster percentage is not that high. Let me see.
I mean, heading into the playoffs, though,
He
it
has a
probably
37% roster percentage. That
you
is
know
wild. Like
you
that's
could
more
have
than
picked up.
Jawan Johnson. Like that's crazy.
You could have, yeah, exactly. You could have Jawan Johnson instead of OBJ chilling on your bench.
Goodness.
But oh well.
But yeah. Anyway, next up, Ryan Tannehill has a foot injury. He's expected to miss week 16. They said Malik Willis will get the start. I've been seeing reports on Wednesday that they said that he could miss the rest of the season. So potentially, I'm not saying anything yet, but this could have been Ryan Tannehill's last game as a Titan. Um, if they wanted to move on, now would probably be the time that they could do that.
Yeah. And in terms of Derrick Henry, who is possibly the only fantasy relevant player on the Tennessee Titans now.
Well, if
Um,
Traylon Burks came back, he would have been with Tannehill, but now with
yeah,
Willis, he's definitely not a start.
which Malik Willis, though, he's known to be a runner, a scrambler. Which hurts Derrick Henry stock a tad bit, but I only say a tad bit because I am not too scared of how much it's going to hurt Derrick Henry. I think the Titans have figured out who Malik Willis is capable of being this year, and they're not going to continue to play to Malik Willis's play style. They're more going to continue their ways in leading their offense through Derrick Henry. Even though that in the past two games they've kind of strayed away with Derrick Henry in the second half. It's a weird trend, but Derrick Henry has gotten a lot of production in the first half. I could actually see this happening again next week against the Texans, who, if they get up early on them, I mean, it just might just be like Malik Willis development day.
Yeah, it could be. But last time that Henry faced the Texans earlier this year, he
Oh my
ran
god.
for 219 and 2.
Yeah.
So
It's
his,
gonna be it yeah, it's gonna
his
be a good
numbers
day
against
for
them.
Henry. Just because you got a running quarterback back there doesn't mean his stock is gonna plummet.
No.
He's gonna dominate. It'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Like honestly, I feel bad if you're playing against Derrick Henry this week because that is going to just be a train wreck for your week. And also another running back news, Jonathan Taylor on injured reserve. I know Theo mentioned last week about teams that aren't really playing for anything. They're more likely to sit people on the shelf, and that's the case with Jonathan Taylor. If they're fighting for a playoff spot, maybe he would have tried to play some more this year, but now he's on injured reserve. His season is over. Um, I want to mention before Theo starts discussing one of my hottest take this year to
Yes.
begin the year was the Jonathan Taylor not being a top five running back.
Yes.
I did get some heat from some Colts fans on Twitter, and I get it. I'm a
Jalen.
Colts fan, but whenever I'm talking fantasy, I'm doing this show. I want to give my honest opinion on things. And my honest opinion was that, hey, Jonathan Taylor probably won't repeat. Like, I'm not going to come on here and be like, oh, yeah, he's going to be the first one to repeat running back one since Priest Holmes. Like, I'm not going to be that guy. But yeah, so he ended up being running back 26 on the year. Um, McKinnon, which I know he just had two good back to back weeks, but I mean, he hasn't been that great before then. He's running back 25 on the year. Jonathan Taylor is running back 19 for points per game because we like to do averages since he's missed some games. Running back 19. But if you take out three of his worst games, two of them he kind of like he got injured in it, whatever. He was running back 7 in points per game. In one of those three games of his worst games, he had 23 opportunities. So it's not like he played like 3 snaps and then left. Like even taking out 3 games, he's still not a top five running back. I know I got heat at the beginning of the year, and I get it, but I felt like the writing was on the wall, which I get. I did have different reasons at the beginning of the year. I was expecting the Colts offense to be more pass happy and better that way, but it just wasn't good all around. So,
Mm-hmm.
but either way, my hot take, it did work out.
No, I'm so glad you brought this up because I was talking about it with a couple of my friends and they didn't believe me. So I pulled up the receipts with you
Oh,
saying
what
it.
the JT not top five?
Yeah, because
Yeah, I put
yeah.
a tweet out. I mean, I am not like I am willing to put my stuff out there. Like the Cole Kmet, I put the Cole Kmet stuff out there, and I mean he still got close to being a top 10 tight end. I mean he wasn't,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean it's yeah. And I know me and Theo both had like CMC running back one this year, and so I feel like it's kind of like one of those things. Like CMC seems to be the outlier of having like multiple good running back seasons. Like, not to say that Jonathan Taylor won't come back next year and be a beast again, because he could, but it's just one of those things that's so hard to replicate that, yeah, I came up with that
And
take, and hey, it worked.
and I saw that like when I rewatched that take, you're listing off your reasons, and I mean I never had JT as my number one running back either. I had CMC, but I was more convinced the more reasons you rattled off. And a lot of if you okay, and I had people tell me this, they're saying Jonathan Taylor is the worst first overall pick in fantasy history. I cringe at that. I hate that
I hate that comment
because
so much.
because because if you paid attention, if you did like an ounce of research instead of just looking at ESPN rankings, you would realize that Jonathan Taylor should have never been your first overall pick. It should have been either like Justin Jefferson or Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
Those are the two. And those are the two that every fantasy expert was naming during the beginning, like right before the season. So if you say that Jonathan Taylor is the worst first overall pick in fantasy, just admit you just did fantasy wrong. I'm sorry. He shouldn't have been in the first place.
And the take to begin with was such a bad take to begin with, because I mean, look at David Johnson a couple years ago. Like, absolutely terrible that year that he was the first overall pick. Um, it's it's just like it seems like every year the first overall pick is always kind of a bust because he doesn't repeat. It's always the top running back from the year before, and he never repeats. It's one of those things that, like, yeah, it's. I know I talked about it a lot, but yeah, it's crazy. And I do want to mention that while you mentioned CMC and Jefferson, I made sure in each one of my redraft leagues, I got one of CMC, Jefferson, and Jalen Hurts. And I made the playoffs in almost every one. Multiple leagues, I have Hurts with either one of Jefferson or McCaffrey. Like those two guys were my number one picks, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I passed over like Derrick Henry for Jefferson. I passed over like all these guys in the first round that were going there for Jefferson, because those like McCaffrey and Jefferson were my two picks for the first round, and it works out. Like I know I made a whole thread on uh back like in the summer about Christian McCaffrey as the number one overall pick and why it shouldn't be Jonathan Taylor, and I might bring that thread back up actually now that the season's like almost over and be like, oh hey,
We
look
like
at
to sing our
this.
praises here.
Yeah, we do. I know there's a lot of there's a lot of bad in between there, but there is some good.
Yeah. I apologize for the Kenneth Walker comments last week.
Hey,
I think
I
the
mean,
only one the only one that didn't beat Kenneth Walker was
with
the one
Pacheco,
that I said was going to be the only one to beat Kenneth Walker.
the best
I kind of
chance.
got that flip flopped, but McKinnon put in another big week. That was fun. But
That was fun to watch, yeah. But moving on, Dallas Goddard activated off the IR. This is pretty big because, like we said, there's some questions around Jalen Hurts that Theo's going to get to in a little bit. But last time that Gardner Minshew played with Dallas Goddard, he threw Goddard had like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns with him. So just saying, pretty good. Khalil Herbert also activated off the IR. To me, this only hurts David Montgomery and doesn't really do much for Herbert. Like I know he looked good earlier in the season, but now that Justin Fields is more of a rusher, I feel like Khalil Herbert doesn't have much fantasy value the rest of the year.
I mean, if I am going to comment about anything, it's just I, Bears rushing offense. It's just so spread out now. I mean,
Yeah,
David Montgomery, like I expected him to explode, but I kind of didn't. I didn't take into account Justin Fields
yeah, how
and
much he
his
takes up.
own, yeah, and how much time he takes up rushing on his own. And that takes away time for David Montgomery to even have a chance to get as many carries as he deserves. Um, Khalil Herbert, as I said before the season, I'll keep stating this point. They like him more in this offense. I don't know how quickly they're going to like integrate him. I don't did
Yeah,
they ever make a comment on like snap share?
I didn't see anything, no. But I
Okay,
do want to know for dynasty players, David Montgomery free agent this next year.
to the
So
Panthers.
yeah, to the Panthers. Khalil Herbert though, like seriously, if you can get him for cheap, might be worth that. McCole Hardman could be back for the Chiefs this week. Another weapon for Mahomes to just play with. I mean, he's just like a kid out there. He just makes it look so easy.
Yeah, this is
Um,
one of the most impressive years I've seen from Mahomes playing wise, even with the targets that he has.
yeah, I know.
And
Yeah, I gotta
they're
say, I
playing
know I
against the
shared with.
Seahawks
Yeah,
too. Their pass defense is pretty solid, so they're going to need as many targets as they can out there. This is a good get. This is a good get for the Chiefs.
yeah, very good because he played really good earlier in the season. Like he was going on a stretch where he was like scoring a touchdown like every week. Um, but either way, like I know I shared with like you guys, but Mahomes is like leading the league in passing yards, and he leads like Justin Herbert, who's number two, by like 500 yards on 50 less attempts. Like it's just wild to me. Nick Chubb, this is a pretty big one. Nick Chubb did not participate in practice on Tuesday and Wednesday. Now they play a Saturday game, so Tuesday and Wednesday is basically like a Wednesday, Thursday for normal weeks. So I know last week we kind of made fun of the people that said drop Kareem Hunt. This is why. Um,
This is exactly why.
while I do think that Chubb, like if he practices tomorrow and everything, like he'll be fine, but still, if he misses this game, like Hunt is like I'm putting Hunt in my lineup if he misses this game. I feel like
Because tomorrow is basically the Friday practice, right?
right.
And that's scary. I mean, if he's a full practice tomorrow, I mean, Hunt, he's still like a sneaky flex play.
I gotta say they still could split work if he's like that injured that he's missing like 2 days of practice. Because that's not just a rest day at this point. Like he missed 2 days.
Such a why would you ever say drop Hunt? Whatever, you can move on.
Yeah, no,
I don't
yeah,
want to bring this up again because we just gonna go on another tangent.
yeah, we're just going to go on another rant. Sammy Watkins gets cut by Green Bay and is returning to Baltimore. Now that is mainly because of this next topic of Devin Duvernay out for 2 months. He tweaked something in practice and now his season's done. It's sad to see, but yeah, that Ravens wide receiver core is just ugly right now.
It's beat up
Ugly.
and injuries aren't
Who's
helping
wide
for
receiver
sure.
one there now? Like is Sammy Watkins going to be wide receiver one? Or is it
Crochet.
Demarcus Robinson or
Oh, Demarcus
Pro-
Robinson. I'd say
Crochet?
Demarcus Robinson or James
Deshaun
Crochet.
Jackson still there?
He might. I don't even know.
He is still there. I know he's still there, but I'm saying,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
will they throw
it's
to
one of
him?
those. I mean, honestly, like Robinson's probably number one. D Jackson, Prochet probably sharing two.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at this point. You're not going to start any of them
Yeah,
because
you shouldn't play.
if you are starting them, you're not in the playoffs anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're tanking in the dynasty league is what you're doing. Nick Foles is a new starter for the Colts.
the rest of the season.
For the rest of the season, they hope. Um, so yeah, as a Colts fan, I have many words about this, but fantasy wise, I'm hoping that he throws the ball downfield more for Pittman
Yeah, and
and
I
for
actually
Pierce.
yeah, I don't have him listed actually in my um next topic. Well, one of my topics because Matt Ryan is hurt, but I feel like the move was more financially. Like
Definitely
was more
financial.
financial because they can't risk him getting hurt more than what he already is because in his contract they said that if he is still injured or like still like unable to play in terms even though it'll be like it's like the third day after free agency. If he's
I guess
still
he's in
like
like March ish, I
yeah,
think.
but they're like going to evaluate him as if there was a game going on that day.
Right.
Like if he was going to be able to play. And if he's not healthy, they had to shovel out $17 million to Matt Ryan. So, I mean, this sounds like the end of the Matt Ryan. It does a little bit sound like the end of the Matt Ryan era. I mean,
I gotta say, does he retire? Like, I
after
feel like the
getting beat
writing's
up
almost on the
all
wall.
dude, if you're Matt Ryan, how could you come back to the Colts and play behind the offensive line
You
and
can't.
see how they played all season with you at quarterback?
Especially when you know they're drafting a rookie quarterback. They're going to be pushing you at the door. Like
Mm-hmm.
the only good thing that having him again next year would be his veteran presence and teaching a rookie, but that'd be about it.
It's although Nick Foles is interesting because it's oddly enough, I feel more confident in starting like not necessarily Michael Pittman. I don't think Michael Pittman's gonna get the volume he usually does, but players like Campbell, Pierce, Woods, not Deion Jackson, maybe with like I could see them getting like one or two more targets than they typically do. I feel like the ball is going to be spread out a lot more than what it typically is with Matt Ryan. And
Yeah, I'm going to have to like look back at Nick Foles starts and see how he throws to like his receivers. Like if he targets mainly the alpha guy or does he spread it out to like
mhm,
evenly amongst everyone? I feel like that's a good thing to look into.
yeah, our fault for not looking into that before we started the episode, but
Yeah, yeah.
I think just a new quarterback change for the Colts it Pittman's value, it does make it a little bit shaky. It makes everything hazy on that team. So it's going to be hard to evaluate it, but it also makes me like somewhat optimistic because now there's a risk towards it where the ceiling, like the potential ceiling just increased. And that's what I
Yeah.
like to see when I'm in the playoffs because if you put Matt Ryan out there, you know what your floor is and you know what your ceiling is. But now with the shakeup, you could see there's some like decision making factors in there. And I'm interested to see what happens this week.
Yeah, I am too. It's going to be interesting. Um, it sucks because it's like it's in the playoffs right now, so you can't just like, oh, let's see what happens this week, and then we can base our decision next week on that. Like, if you either play him this week and if you get burned by him, then you might be out, or you sit him and he explodes type thing. So it's hard to say on what you should do right now. But
And you should, I should note that the Chargers need to win this game.
yeah,
It is a must win game for them to get in the playoffs. So they are not going to be taking a backseat against the Colts at
and
all.
that is why I like Deion Jackson more than Zach Moss because he's kind of like that third down guy. He's kind of like that pass down guy. Um, Moss just looked bad, looked very bad last week.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, tangents over. Colts fan talk over. Uh, it's not like I guess it's kind of funny, but
It is funny.
I just wanted to mention this thing. But Browns Saints game has the lowest over under in over a decade at it's currently 32 and a half points. Like I know I've told Theo, but like Kamara, yes, this could be a game where he shows up. He could do a little bit better, but I know like one of our friends has been telling us like, hey, Kamara or Dobbins. Um, to me, Dobbins, because like
I said the same thing.
I just can't play Kamara right now. He's not like he played good at the beginning of the season, and he got that running back over one overall week whenever he had 3 touchdowns. But ever since then, it's just been bad. Um, I feel like it's hard to play him in a game where there's such a low point total. I know the Saints' expected point total is at 15 points, so that's just over 2 touchdowns. You got to hope that one of those touchdowns goes to Kamara for you to have like a decent fantasy day at this point.
It's gonna be ugly. It's already 32.5 points. I remember
Plus bad
covering
weather.
bad weather too. I remember covering the well, I didn't cover it. One of my coworkers did, but I was there. Um, watching the Minnesota Gophers versus the Iowa Hawkeyes game, uh, during the college football season. That had the lowest over under total in a college football game in years, probably most like in history. It was at 30.5. And you know what? The under hit. The under hit. I think it was like
So bad.
15, like the score was like 15-10.
Jeez.
The
That's
under hit, like
that's
there's a
ugly.
possibility where the under hits in this game.
Yeah.
And that's what scares me here in how many touchdowns are going to be going around in this game. Um, so I know what we previously talked about with Nick Chubb being a DNP. Um, it could be like all Kareem Hunt. Like Kareem Hunt could score one of the only 2 touchdowns in this game. Like,
Yeah, so while we're on that like topic, like Amari Cooper, like would you play him this
oh,
week?
dude, that's what makes it so
And
difficult because
he's been so bad with like Deshaun Watson back too. Like Donovan
and every
Peoples Jones has been the Browns wide receiver instead of Cooper.
man, I
Like Jawan
Deshaun Watson
Johnson's in
is
this
not
game.
playing.
David
Mm-hmm.
Njoku's in this game. Like, yeah,
You have
it's
so many play, like you said, all those players are known to find their way in the end zone sometimes. I know Amari Cooper, he did a lot more with Brissett though, or had a lot better games with Brissett. It's just it's it's just if you're facing an opponent that's got like a god squad, you can't start a player in this game.
yeah, I know.
The odds are against you on whatever player you put in your starting lineup. And that's just difficult. And I know like a lot of big media fantasy accounts say start Kamara. It's hard. It's hard to commit to that,
It's
even
hard.
with the bad weather. And
It's going to be very tough. I mean, just like both teams are projected like around like 2 touchdowns, and you gotta hope that your player that you're starting gets it, or unless like the only like argument you can have against that is the running backs. Like, say if Chubb is out, Kareem Hunt and Kamara should get a lot of work in those 3 hours. Um, so that's the only real argument that you can have is that the potential workload that they would get to raise the floor of it, and then the potential of the touchdown kind of raises it a little bit. But even then, not really, because you got like a 50-50 shot almost. Before we move on to our next segment, let me tell you a little bit more about our sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy platform where it's just you versus the projections. You can pick more or less on many player projections that they have on any sport you watch. This includes like receiving yards, passing yards, rushing yards on like wide receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs, respectively. All you have to do is pick between 2 to 5 players, and you can win up to 10 times your entry. And that's not all. If you are a new sign on, you can receive a 100% deposit match up to $100 by using code Blue Stable. So if you deposit $10, they'll give you $10, which makes it $20. If you deposit $50, they'll also give you $50, making it $100. And if you do $100, the max, they'll also give you $100, giving you $200. Download Prize Picks today and play daily fantasy sports with us. Make sure to use code BLUESTABLE, BLUESTABLE, when you sign up. The link is down in the description below if you want to download today.
And I want to segue that into the Arctic blast that is hitting America right now. And it will hit your favorite football teams. Well, some of your favorite football team stadiums. In the games, I found credit to Jake Seeley, who did the research on this, looking up the games which are being played outside and that will be impacted the most. So first one, we got the Thursday night game of Jacksonville at New York Jets. This one's going to be an ugly game, wind and rain, up to 15 miles per hour wind. These games that I'm going to be listing off, temper your expectations on how effective the passing game will be. The game script is just naturally going to be favoring the run here. And so some of these running backs are on Jacksonville, like Travis Etienne, New York Jets. You got Bam Knight. They're going to see a little bit of a boost. I'm not saying it's a confident start with either of these players, like we just talked about in the Saints-Browns game, but especially going for the quarterbacks with Trevor Lawrence, he's coming off an amazing run since week 10. I think I saw that he is the QB4 in fantasy since week 10.
Yeah, I sent that in the group chat
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Unbelievable run he's going on. I'm worried. I'm worried for Lawrence in this game. 15-mile-per-hour wind and rain in a Thursday night football game, or anything can happen on Thursday night. I'm a
It's
little
weird.
bit worried for that.
It's weird because like I like starting Thursday night players, but I also worry like with Thursday night players because like if you start a Thursday night player, you know what you're looking for the rest of the week. Like
Mhm.
if you're starting Trevor Lawrence and he bombs, you're going full upside the rest of the week. If
Yep.
Trevor Lawrence does really good, you're playing safe the rest of the week. Like it kind of like
That's
helps decide your lineup for the rest of the week, but at the same time, it's also nerve wracking because like you're seeing this, like what's happening to your fantasy team right away.
I completely agree. That's why I like having some players in my Thursday night. I always say Thursday night, a little bit worried anything can happen, because generally this season and last season, I believe, the scores have been pretty low on
Yeah,
Thursday night football games. And that's, as it's gone later on in the season, it's just due to fatigue. I mean, shorter week. You've already played a full season. Now you get a Thursday night game.
they
Of course,
really
scoring is going to be lower.
NFL really just needs to get rid of Thursday night football. It's what
Yeah,
they need to do.
Prime shoveled out so much money for it, like,
Yeah.
not to go away. They
Well, I
could
mean,
easily do a Saturday game
I gotta say that's why
or
I'm
a
saying
Friday.
do like a Friday night or a Saturday night. Like Thursday's just way too early in the week for these players to like get enough rest between Sunday to Thursday. And like especially traveling teams because like you look at Jacksonville, like they had a game Sunday and then they had Monday rest and then Tuesday like practice and then Wednesday travel. Like it's a mess.
And the other game Jake listed was the Saints Browns game. We already talked about that. I'll just provide you with some of the weather stats. 25 plus mile per hour winds and some slight snow. So like some rain, sleet, snow. Um, Terrible weather conditions. This game's on Saturday, and the next game is Atlanta at Baltimore. This one is 15 plus mile per hour winds and some cold weather. You got Huntley. Well, Huntley was a DNP. Talk about that a little bit later. And Ritter that are playing. So there's already some general passing concerns in this game. Uh,
You don't need the win for passing concerns there.
yeah, really. Um, I guess the only player that I would say is there's two. Well, no, one. I would say that's Drake London. I was gonna say Mark Andrews, but Mark Andrews has not been that much of a
It has been great.
no. Yeah, I mean, it's Drake London. His last game with Ritter at quarterback. That's probably the only true passing concern you have for this game. And the last one that has some pretty bad concerns is the Buffalo at Chicago Bears game. 20 plus mile per hour winds and the cold weather of Chicago. It is going to be near 0 degrees. I think it might even touch below zero. I'll have
Be
to double
surprised.
check on that, but it's going to be cold in Chicago. Breaking news.
I gotta say, I know for like I live in southern Indiana, and like Friday night is going to be negative in the negatives, and then like Saturday is going to be like a high of like 13. So
In Chicago, yeah, it's probably good. Right next to the lake too.
yeah, right next to the
It
lake.
it's not going to be fun. I think though for this one with the 20 plus mile per hour winds, of course, yes. Something odd tells me though that Josh Allen's going to find a way. He's going to find a way. It's not going to be like a 400-yard game from him, but he's going to find a way to put up near or maybe over 200 passing yards somehow. Just because I trust McKenzie and Diggs off the catch.
I gotta say, like, yes, we're saying like these weather reports and stuff like that, but it doesn't mean that you need to be sitting these quarterbacks. Like,
Yeah.
because like I mean we saw with the Colts 49ers last year, they played in a monsoon basically, and they still did very well through the air. Like Pittman got like 100 some yards and a touchdown. Carson Wentz threw for quite a bit. The 49ers threw for quite a bit. So it's not like it's the end of the world, like, oh my goodness, you have to sit these guys, but it's just to throw caution out there pretty much.
hmm Like me saying along with the caution, me saying like Isaiah McKenzie and Stephon Diggs could still catch like a 5 yard pass
Yeah,
and run 30
yeah,
yards and
yeah.
score a passing touchdown. And that's points. That's all points to Josh Allen. Um, but what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like one player on the Bills, Gabe Davis. You also have to take into
Yeah.
account the player's play style, and Gabe Davis is one where he's going to be a non-factor this week. And okay, out like every week, but
I was waiting for it.
yeah, I know, I was contemplating on saying it or not, but yeah, even more so, you're going to throw the ball like 30 yards downfield and 20 plus mile per hour winds. No, you're not. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be pretty either. So Gabe Davis, extremely low on. That's a huge sit. I would not even think about playing him in your lineup, and even if you have him on your lineup in the playoffs so far. But anyways, so a couple other cold games that are this week are Cincinnati at New England, Seattle at Kansas City, Houston at Tennessee, and the Raiders at Pittsburgh. Um, that's fine. I mean, like cold games happen, right? It's not going to be this is not a passing concern. This is just more of I mean, just like a slight, not as much of a caution, just a slight worry. Players are going to feel a little bit more of the hits. And as the game goes on, it might slightly bump up some of their rushing stats. So just keep an eye out on that. And my next topic I have is some of the QB injuries that have happened over the course of this week, which are a lot. We already talked about Nick Foles to an extent with Matt Ryan being out. Jalen Hurts, he is not out. Oh, he's uncertain to play this weekend, as what Adam Schefter's report was. I don't think he's going to be playing.
I gotta say he
Eagles,
missed Wednesday practice, so
yeah.
not a good sign.
Eagles kind of are sitting. I think they want Hurts to sit out this week. Well, like it's Cowboys week though. Like,
Yeah, this is a hard week for them to want to sit him because
yeah,
of
but
that matchup. But
you
at the same
can't
time,
risk
no,
that
you need
shoulder
him
getting hurt
healthy.
even more. You,
Yeah.
I know you want to. They probably really want to keep this 1 seed, and winning this game will pretty much solidify their 1 seed. But you just can't risk him sitting. Minshew, I saw here. Right now, I saw some stats that when he came into the Eagles and played a couple of times last season, I believe, he was QB 10 and QB 16, which is like you're thinking about it and you're like a QB 16 matchup, like play even when Hurts is down, like I'll take that. That's a safe pick. But if you look back to his stats since 2019, he's been painfully average. He's been average through and through. Um, I know, I was looking at some of the PFF stuff. He was ranked like he was graded out in the 30s. His like yards per game was like in the 30s, like out of I think it was close to it was like it was like quarterback 31 or 32. But I mean, this is back to 2019, so there's a lot more quarterbacks you have to take into account. Um, Cowboys are now favorited. I think they jumped up like 4 points. I don't know. I'm trying to rattle these off the top of my
It's
head.
they're 5 point favorites right now.
They're 5 point favorites. Okay. So I think they opened it up at yeah, that's pretty much close anyway. Um so yeah,
And you got to think they always usually give the home team like 3 points as well. So
mhm. Yeah, it's gonna be tough, especially for Goddard. I'm feeling comfortable with because I know
yeah,
Minshew likes his tight ends. It's just like Miles Sanders. I know he put up a stinker
yeah,
last week. AJ Brown. I mean, his projected points took a hit when they announced that Hurts was not playing this week.
right.
And I don't I could see AJ Brown scoring a touchdown just because they get there, right? It could be off of because Dak is not playing his best football. He's been throwing interceptions as of late. That could give the offense good enough field position, give AJ Brown that touchdown. I can't rely on AJ Brown getting enough production though. That's going to be the tough part. Um,
I gotta say it's kind of hurts because it hurts, pun intended, unintended, whatever. But like it
it's
hurts
in the title,
because
so
yeah, it's in the title. But it kind of hurts because it's Jalen Hurts out and it's a bad matchup. Like
mhm.
it's kind of like a double whammy. And what really just sucks is that like I bet you there's a lot of teams still in the playoffs just because of Jalen Hurts. Like I know like the leagues
A
that I'm in
lot.
that with Jalen Hurts, I'm in it. And without Jalen Hurts, this is not great. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
The next quarterback I want to talk about is Lamar Jackson. I know he's now after missing practice today. It's not looking pretty. He might there's a good chance that he does not play this weekend. And Huntley, Tyler Huntley, just today was did not practice. And I think that was because yeah, he injured his throwing arm. I don't know if it was shoulder or his hand, but it was his throwing arm. They sat him. That could solely be precautionary, just so that they have a more healthy quarterback out there who knows the playbook. But that's him popping up as a did not practice is a big worry for me. Hopefully Lamar Jackson.
Says he was limited in practice.
Oh, he was limited in practice. Okay, but that's still a new injury though, right?
Well, they said in this, he said Huntley reportedly missed time during spring workouts this year with tendonitis in that same shoulder.
Okay. So I lied. I spread misinformation.
Come on, dude.
Somewhat of a new injury. It just kind of like
Yeah.
popped up.
Yeah, they
Um,
said he was like just added, like so it just happened.
okay, so that part I didn't fabricate. Uh, yeah, so he's limited in practice today. That's still a worry for me, even if like Lamar Jackson is not going to be going out. Like that could easily flare up during the game, and in the cold weather that he's playing in this week, I could just it the odds of that flaring up just increases. Baltimore Ravens, the only player I'm going to touch in fantasy this week is J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah. So I want to play a little game with you. Mark Andrews or Juwan Johnson.
Juwan Johnson.
Mark
Wait.
Andrews in that
Mm,
game.
I know. I just thought about that. Juwan Johnson. I'm going Juwan. I'm
I
riding
guess
hot
it's still
hand.
going to be tough.
Juwan
Juwan
Johnson.
Johnson or Cade Otton, who I mentioned last week. They're playing the Cardinals this week. Number
Ooh, and the
32
card.
against tight
That
ends.
is all. Cade Otton.
Going Cade Otton. I got to say, to me, I'm like, Mark Andrews is so tough to sit, but you got to go for the upside. I
Do you
feel like at
see
this point.
like Andy Dalton? It's like, come on now. Give me a break. Like okay, Mark Andrews is like I like that name drop, like between him and Juwan Johnson, because it's bad weather, bad matchups, bad quarterback play.
Yeah.
So the only upside in that is Juwan Johnson with the hot hand. But with Kate Otten, you got a healthy quarterback, nice, fun little game. Like one's in Miami. Wait, are they playing at Arizona?
Yes, at Arizona.
Okay, in a dome, nice, temperature controlled, and it's like 65 degrees there.
Right.
Um, yeah, I would go Kate Otten for that one. Is that the only name you got, or is there one more?
Chig would be my last one. Chig Okwakno, or I'm sorry, I don't know how to say his last name.
Chig Okonkwo or
Chig is a big one for me, especially because of the Mike Willis news.
yeah.
Because he's been good like these past couple weeks. Like Chig these past 3 weeks, tight end 8, tight end 3, tight end
Is
15
this against Juwan Johnson or is this against Mark Andrews?
against Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews.
Unless you want to like rank these four out of like how you would play them.
Okay.
I feel like Kate Otten's the top of my
Yeah,
list.
Otten's one. Um, Johnson's Johnson's two, Andrews three, Chig is four.
That
And
would
it's
probably be my
tough putting
list.
yeah. I gotta put even though like cold game, Malik Willis is in, he's like Burks is back. Yeah, it's not good for Chig just in general.
I gotta say, it's not lining up to be a good week for Chig. It's lining up to where like you can drop Chig. I feel like
Mhm.
anyway.
Um, said Russell Wilson is still battling his concussion. I mean, he's projected to play this week, but I would still be cautious on him. Brett Ripon could be back there at the helm this week, but things are looking positive for Wilson. Colt McCoy, who took over for Kyler Murray after he tore his ACL, he has a concussion as well. He's day to day, but I think no, they announced Trace McSorley's 100% the starter though, right?
I sold McSorley, yes.
Okay, so they announced McSorley is 100% the starter. Um, I mean Hopkins and Marquise Brown. I know Luke and I talked about this just before we started the show. He's benching Marquise Brown. It's not worth it at this point. Trace McSorley, I think he's thrown one touchdown, like in his playing time. He's thrown one touchdown and three interceptions. Two of those interceptions came from last game. If that shows you who Trace McSorley is, I I don't have any more evidence to show you because there isn't much.
He has thrown a touchdown in his career. Back with Baltimore 2 years ago.
2 years ago. 2-year-old touchdown.
He has three completions that year for 90 yards and a touchdown.
See, I'd take you back to those 2 years ago if you want to see anything positive from Trace
Yeah.
McSorley.
Yeah.
I do not expect it against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. That is going to be hell for him. And Hopkins too. Would you bench Hopkins? Ooh, okay. I gotta think so. See, you could think of these like wide receivers like off the top.
Marquise Goodwin.
Hopkins or Garrett Wilson in that tough game in the weather. Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson,
Zach Wilson
or,
starting.
or Hopkins.
Jacksonville is a pretty good matchup for wide receivers, though, aren't they?
I believe they're like slightly above average.
That's tough. I think I'd lean Garrett Wilson.
Okay. Terry McLaurin against the San Francisco 49ers.
Ooh.
At San Francisco.
Ooh. Depends if Heineke is starting yet. I'd probably go McLaurin.
McLaurin over Hopkins.
Yeah, well, it's so tough. See, the thing is like with Hopkins, I feel like he's going to get a lot of targets, but their chances of scoring is dramatically like
none. they might get shut out, honestly.
Like I have so much more faith in like Washington scoring touchdowns and even the Jets like scoring touchdowns than I do for the Cardinals right now.
One more player. Michael Pittman Jr. or DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh gosh. That's tough. There, I'd probably go Hopkins.
Hopkins? Okay. I you know what, honestly, I think I agree with that one too.
Do you agree with the other ones?
I agree with McLaurin.
The Garrett Wilson one's probably the toughest one there.
Yeah, I agree with McLaurin and Pittman. I'd start Hopkins over Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that.
But
that's just like feel like, yeah.
I mean, your reasonings are right. Like, I'm not like, it's just I guess it's more personal preference and like.
Right. I gotta say they're all in kind of like that same area though. It's not like they're out there with like Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill and guys like that, and they're not like way down there with like Marquise Goodwin type area either. So yeah.
I also think naming bias might come into play for me. But
right.
My only other
Garrett Wilson had Garrett Wilson had 9 targets last week. Zach Wilson. So
yeah, but this tonight, when this episode releases, it's not going to be a fun game for Garrett Wilson.
No, I gotta say it's going to be an ugly game, but he's still going to get targets, and I like their chances.
And my last quarterback I want to talk about was Ryan Tannehill, but we've talked about the Titans to more of an extent that I, as a Colts fan, want. So
we don't need to talk about them anymore.
No, that's it for me, I guess, for my parts, my segments. Do you have anything or no?
I think I'm good. The last thing I
Sweet.
want to, yeah, I gotta say the last thing I want to say to everybody is happy holidays. I know Theo mentioned earlier, but I just want to reiterate that. Merry Christmas to all this weekend, and Happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate that. I know that's also going on right now. But yeah, uh, New Year is coming soon. Next week is championship week. It's going to be fun. It's going to be
I'm
fun.
so excited.
I'm just hoping that all my teams with Jalen Hurts can move through this week.
I
That's
hope Christmas miracle Jalen Hurts plays. Come on. Come on.
the thing is I worry like if he. So I saw someone on Twitter. They said, "Okay, I have Lawrence and Hurts. My nightmare is that I play Lawrence. He gets like 6 points, and then Hurts ends up playing and scores like 20."
Hmm.
He said that's going to be so painful.
Is there any other quarterback on the waiver?
Right? Yeah, I don't know. I guess I saw that on Twitter, so it's like,
Mm,
man, that's tough. It's a tough decision because like Lawrence has been good like lately. It's
yes.
yeah, but either way, another tangent. We'll wrap it up here. Yeah, until next week, guys. I hope you survive and advance because that is the name of the game right now. Just keep surviving, just keep advancing. But yeah, until next week, we shall see you guys.
Peace.